Tony has a deep history in the use of data. He'll talk a little more about that history. So please join with me in welcoming Tony Carter from Infinity Data.
Thank you, Toby. Thanks, everyone, for having me. Hopefully I won't disturb your lunch too much. Yeah, look, today I'm going to sort of talk about data, but more specifically, data that we can extract from your business to give back to you to help identify opportunities for efficiencies and growth. I'm the founder of a company called Infinity Data. I've been putting together technology and data solutions for the last sort of 20 years. More recently, I've worked with a very large M&A business in Australia that's sole focus is evaluating and acquiring advisory firms. That's financial planning, lending, accounting firms. So I spent a lot of years collecting information, data around all types of firms, small and large firms, integrated firms, and looking at their performance, their valuation, but also areas of improvement, once the transaction had been completed. That was not an easy exercise collecting information. So what I've done in Infinity Data is built an engine, a data engine called Saturn Data Engine, which I'll go through today. And that pulls data in from all of your business systems. And there's a lot of data there. And once that data's in, we give it back to you, and I'm working with firms to, and I'll show you that in a second, to help decipher what it all means, build a roadmap for improvement. So look, what I've got here is sort of the data life cycle. So this is fairly typical of a data warehouse or any kind of reporting system where you pull data out of your core systems. This is an infographic, it's quite simplified. This example is a super firm. So you might have heard that term around the marketplace at the moment. So what that means, this is in the middle there, in the box is a representation of an accounting firm, a financial planning firm, and a lending firm, all with different kinds of systems in different locations potentially. So the data goes, out of those systems. It's all compatible with Saturn. It's all secure. It gets processed into a standard sort of advice model where you can, from the top, from your general ledger, drill right down into the clients. It all connects it up. That data's put back, the top right box, in many different formats. You can have reports. You can have a very deep insight Power BI portal, or you can query the data. You've got access to your data out of the Saturn Data Engine, readily available for Excel analysis or asking questions of your data. So that's kind of the nutshell of the Saturn Data Engine. I've got, and I'll touch on this, coming from the M&A space, if you're looking to grow your business, I've got two sort of greyed out boxes on that diagram. One of the things Saturn has got out of the box is you can do a try before you buy acquisition. So what that means is you can put in any number of businesses. It's very powerful. The technology today just scales incredibly. So you can, if you're looking at buying a business, you can pull their data out of their system and look at a consolidated view of performance, what your firm will look like. And also, what are the opportunities in that acquisition? And so what's happening with acquisitions is you can get two valuations. So if you're looking to buy a business, there's definitely a marketplace valuation, revenue multiple or EBIT multiple. But if you pull the data in and you've got some programs and projects in place to grow, there's potentially an internal valuation which is higher. So you've got leverage for the acquisition and that purchase, but very powerful information that you can leverage. The other thing that's going on is there's plenty of, those firms are looking to grow or have lending business or whatever the business is, joint ventures. And they're run off legal documents, Word documents, spreadsheets, they're actually quite hard to manage. Same thing, there's joint ventures occurring in Saturn, so you can pull those the data from these different systems, the JV. The clients are held in escrow. It's a secure database with entry and exit points for your sort of joint venture agreement, and you can see if either rev share or referral arrangements in Saturn itself. So, you know, out of the box, there's a lot of great opportunity to grow your business. Yeah, so this is just a snippet. So there's a very comprehensive and, you know, data-rich Power BI portal that comes with the Saturn Data Engine. I've just put a few of the dashboards up there, but top to bottom, you know, from the firm to your teams, advisors, clients, data quality. I've got an M&A module, which I'll talk about in a second. So on the left, you know, if you run down that list, the top one is a single source of truth. So pretty much if you're pulling data out of Xero and you've got, you know, a manual process each month, a lot of firms spend a lot of time pulling that data together, pulling your commission stuff in, Xplan. You know, there's a lot of manual overhead to do this. This is all automated. It runs every day or week or month, whatever suits you. It's all secure and consolidated, and it's all joined together. The purple ticks, I've just really put that in to just highlight those. So one of the nice things about having your costs integrated with your revenue is you can start allocating costs. And so it's fairly easy to get your profitability from a general ledger. Not so easy to look at the profitability of your teams and your clients. So Saturn lets you assign costs to your teams and your clients. And so what I mean by that is, as firms are doing this, is you've got an advisor and the revenue and that reporting. You can actually attach costs, the wages for the advisor, the costs for the back office team, licensing, occupancy costs, and Saturn creates a virtual P&L for each pod. So now you've got profitability for each of the teams. And if you've got an integrated firm, you can have profitability across like-for-like sort of, you know, view of profitability across your advisors, your accountants, and your lending teams. And what comes out of the wash with the revenue is actually the number of clients and your average revenue. So you've got good benchmarking across the teams, but also you can get a view of utilisation. What teams have capacity and what's their profit. They're really, really important levers, but they, you know, they help you, you know, make decisions on, you know, what to do with your business. And you can go right down. You can actually put costs against clients. There's a way of doing that. Yeah, utilisation with this information. You've got, you know, utilisation of the back and front office teams. Clients won and loss is also not so easy to understand, so the Saturn Data Engine does that. Benchmarking, data quality, and down the bottom is M&A. Again, if you're interested in actually looking at your own valuation, the Saturn Data Engine, the data's there. It tells you indicatively what your firm's worth, but also tells you other things that would be of interest. So if you've got a book and you've got an aging book, it actually ranks the revenue. So in M&A terms, some of that revenue for aging is actually at risk, and it's got a different multiple, but also over the next, you know, if there are 80 plus clients, that revenue will disappear for whatever reason. So your client growth strategy needs to, you know, cater for, you know, your referral program, but also the revenue you're going to lose. Firms we're working with where we do pull all their data out, one of the problems is there's too much data. What does it all mean? So there's definitely an education phase with advice data. There's so much stuff there. So what we do is we work with firms, we give them a scorecard of their business as a starting point, just traffic light, fairly simple. And we work with firms and say, okay, well, the data's telling us this is what we think is happening with your firms. But also, if you did these 3 or 4 things, these are the key levers for your firm. and your strategy. On the right, there's a list of solutions. So there's, here's the data, it's great. What's the solution for your initiative, for your strategy? And that could be outsourcing or pricing or AI or client growth organically or definitely, acquisition. And each of those projects has a different, requires, different investment of time for the business. But the data sort of drives all of that. And what I've got here is sort of a typical, for advice firms we work with, this is sort of the life cycle of actually leveraging data into, an action plan to do things. This is, atypical of a small firm that wants to double its revenue over the next 3 to 5 years. So this is happening a lot out there in the marketplace for certain firms. So what I've got here is, again, just an infographic. It's really a roadmap, and there's plenty of firms running different kinds of things other than day-to-day business projects, looking at, what's their strategy, their culture, giving people, clear KPIs that align the KPIs of the firm to the KPIs of, what they do day to day, organic growth, acquisition, pricing. On that box on the left, I've got a whole bunch of revenue initiatives and a whole bunch of cost optimizations. Out there, I've got 5% organic growth, pricing 5 to 25%. So for $1 million book, there's definitely out there in the marketplace, firms are getting 5, 10, 25% extra revenue for their pricing programs. They haven't done it for a while. So that's a significant uplift for the same cost base. So that profitability is going up. In conjunction, the firms that are doing things like AI, and I've done a couple of pilot programs for AI where we've optimised the review process, and we've released about a day or so a week of free time for the advisors to do revenue generating initiatives. They're getting significant return on not just the cost savings. What do you all do with a free day a week? You try and get new revenue. Do you have a client referral program? So that's sort of picking up pace. I think AI has been spoken about a lot today. It is in the early stages, but just the co-pilot out of the box is kind of like magic, how much you can optimise things. Outsourcing, optimising your workflows. There's revenue leakage, data quality. So all that data coming out for an advice business, you get a window into that. And each of those has, a different impact to your costs or your revenue. The bottom chart isn't sort of actually make-believe. 2 to 4 million over a few years, and you've got an EBIT ratio, which is the gross profit of the firm, 400 to 1.4, but if you can see that 20% EBIT up to 35, so not only are firms growing out there using their data, they're increasing their ratio of profit for the increase of revenue. So that's fairly standard at the marketplace. Hopefully that makes sense. So I went through that fairly quickly. So this is really about, we have all this investment data. Myself and Toby are, in discussions around, how can we leverage that for even deeper insights.
So really this is, once we have the data ingested into Saturn, the data that we're looking for this project is at transaction level. It's not enough. We're not looking for performance level data. We're looking to essentially recalculate performance given the assets that the client holds, whether those are in managed accounts or advised assets, and then to identify cohorts of clients that represent essentially a natural experiment. I think one of the points which didn't come out terribly clearly from your presentation, Tony, was perhaps security and the criticality of that. I don't know whether you want to expand a little more on that.
Yeah, look, the engine's built on the latest cloud technology. It complies to, the Privacy Act, the cyber.gov standards. It's encrypted. So all the out-of-the-box best practice security protocols are in place as sort of default. All the data is encrypted. When we collect the data, it's encrypted when it's in the Saturn engine. And to get access to it, there's a whole security protocol to do that. We deliver this data using the Microsoft tech. So what we do is we put your business's information, this is the Microsoft tech's fantastic, into an app. And we put it into the Microsoft App Store, which is in the Microsoft security universe. And if you've got a Microsoft account, you can actually download your app into your own security system. So there's no transferring of anything. It's all in the cloud. So you're downloading your firm's app, and then you access the reports and the dashboards, but also you can connect into the data depending on your security access that's governed by, we work with the firms and say, okay, well, the CEO gets to see this information and the advisors can see this and the back office team can see that. You can also restrict exporting data out of some of those dashboards. You can pull all the data out. So security is the foundation piece of the Saturn Data Engine.
And from the point of view of the pilot project that I spoke about, we're dealing with anonymised data. So once the data's in Saturn, then it's anonymised. So are there questions for Tony about any aspect of the process of what insights does your existing data offer for your business? No? Look, if you're interested in taking part in the pilot or in understanding more about this, don't hesitate to talk with Tony or myself. So thanks very much, and please join with me in thanking Tony Carter.